Mohamed Salah is arguably one of the very few players who could confidently say he's one of the best to have ever played within the league, and no one would have anything bad to say. The grand majority of his records are just ridiculous, with him only having one real competitor, and that is from Thierry Henry. So when you have people comparing Salah, who's the definite all-timer, to Chelsea's Eden Hazard, it honestly seems a little bit strange and not in touch with reality at all. So today, I will be explaining why Mo Salah clears Eden Hazard in a battle of their primes, and also will be explaining how most content creators and sports analysts always use the wrong numbers to actually get the right results. One of the biggest problems with the Salah versus Hazard debate is that when people would grade Eden Hazard's impact on his club Chelsea FC, they would normally use basic statistics within their analysis, something that Mohamed Salah would normally have a massive advantage in, which is because of his playing style and his role on his team. One of the first things that people would point to that would shift the debate in Salah's favor is their goals and assists and all the facts that surround them. For instance, if we limit this conversation to these two players' prime years, the 5 best seasons that these two players have ever played, the grand majority of these major numbers really makes this comparison seems a little bit foolish and more one-sided than it actually is. For example, within this period, Hazard played 267 games across all competitions, banging in 87 goals and getting 74 assists in total, which is an impressive feat considering we are talking about the strongest league within the world, and also because of the fact that he was mainly playing as a playmaker. However, when really looking at these two players' numbers side by side, Salah's numbers looks really insane in comparison. In his best 5 seasons with Liverpool, he played 250 games, which is about 17 less than Hazard's, but was able to get an impressive 164 goals with 84 assists to his name. And again, if we put this into context, this essentially means that with these goal contribution ratios, if these two players were given an extra 200 games to play, Salah would have close to double the amount of goals and assists Hazard would have over the same period. And in order for Hazard goal contribution numbers to get to the same level, it would literally have to play an extra 140 games to get to the same results. Salah's statistical footprint is literally so insane that he has more goals than Hazard has goals and assists, and has been a player that's been so consistent and dangerous for so many years. It's literally when you look at his numbers against some of the most ruthless players, that's when you really get a sense of how dangerous he really is. He is the player with the most goals and assists in the most games in a single season, and is also the player with the most away goal involvement within a single season, with him now equaling the record for the player who has the most goal contributions within one Premier League season, with an insane 47. A record that's even more impressive, seeing that the previous record holders had an extra 4 games to play. This massive gap within their statistical footprint also has a massive effect on their perceived historical performance as well, which also reinforces most people's beliefs within these numbers. One of the biggest examples of this is their record against the strongest teams within the league, what's known as the Big Six. Against these teams, Hazard was only able to get 25 goal contributions against them, scoring 17 goals and providing 8 assists in all competitions, which is in stark contrast with Mohamed Salah and his numbers at Liverpool, having over 100 plus games against these teams and having created over 80 goal contributions against them. Now again, this is usually the point where most football fans will start to form all of their opinions, walking away thinking Salah is completely on an entirely different level. However, there is a completely different side to this debate that could potentially flip this entire conversation in an entirely different direction. Because of Eden Hazard's role as a creative playmaker, he was really just a man that was playing literally as a winger only on paper, He would help his team out in so many ways and had such a massive impact, he would actually make Salah's participation on the field look criminally overrated. For instance, if we were to look at some of the stats that shows just how involved these two players were over the same 5-year period within the league, we can start to see just how dominant Eden Hazard really was. As in some metrics, he had almost double the amount Mohamed Salah has for his team, averaging almost 1,000 more touches on average within each season and literally having hundreds of more progressive passes and carries within these same seasons as well. In fact, it's only when you look at these two players' numbers against some of the best players within the league is when you really realize just how involved Eden Hazard really was in comparison to Liverpool's Salah, rivaling players who it's their main job just to literally dribble and pass. And if we are talking about their aesthetics and skills on the ball, or what a lot of people might judge based upon the eye test, it is Eden Hazard that was operating on an entirely different level. When you look at their dribbling attempts and success rates over the years, Hazard makes Salah's numbers look like child's play, as he was rivaling one of the best players to have ever played the game. And in some respects, he was actually a little bit better. Hazard, in his own way, has been one of the most impressive players to have ever played within the Premier League, which is a statement that can be supported by all of the trophies and personal awards that he have won over the years, and by the fact that a lot of his seasons are actually rated on a higher level compared to Mohamed Salah, despite not scoring nearly the same amount of goals over the years. So the real question that we should be asking is not who's more lethal in front of goal or who's more entertaining to see. No, this is really just a question of whose numbers or participation on the pitch would be more beneficial for the team going forward. Or more simply, does Eden Hazard's efforts away from goal make up for the difference in terms of goals and assists, which is Mohamed Salah's main attacking output? Well, the answer to this question, after some really heavy research, in my opinion, is actually no. There's a few reasons why I think it would be more beneficial to choose a prime Salah over a prime Eden Hazard, which can be summarized mainly as questionable creation output and team compatibility. Firstly, when I say questionable creation output, I'm also talking about Hazard's playing style and what it means for the team going forward. One of the biggest opinions most casual fans often say when looking at Hazard's time at Chelsea is that if he only had better teammates, his numbers in terms of goals and assists would be a lot better, which is a statement that is true when looking at all of his play and when analyzing most of the data. But what's not often talked about is just how unreliable these data are at analyzing Hazard's playing style. Unlike a player like Messi, whose dribbling technique mostly create clean-cut goal-scoring opportunities, Hazard tends to create dangerous moments over clean-cut chances more often than not, using his superior dribbling skills to go into crowded areas with 4 or 5 players to create a dangerous moment for the opposition. This is something that's been heavily documented and talked about over the years, as a sentiment that is quite prevalent during his most questionable seasons, which is another reason why he always seems to underperform when looking at his expected assists. This within itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's this ability that actually separates the winners from the losers during the average game. But is this something that's worth more than Salah's ability to score a goal out of nothing? A player who has been consistently outperforming his expected XG, especially considering the type of shots he was attempting over the years? Yeah, I don't think it's actually worth it. Another thing that really puts this debate in Salah's favor as well is his compatibility, his ability to adapt to any team. Sure, you can make the argument that if someone doesn't give Salah the ball, he wouldn't be able to score. However, regardless of such a fact, it would be far more difficult to create a team for Eden Hazard. Just like the Neymar and Messis of the world, Hazard isn't a player you can just put on any team and expect him to play at his best. A system more or less needs to be created, meaning the right tactical and personal support to get the best out of him. which does make sense seeing that he is usually the one in control of the game. This, however, is the complete opposite of Salah in his career, who has a history of playing on counter-attacking and in position-based teams. Now, I will admit this is a massive oversimplification when all is considered, as Hazard's game is much more than what's done on paper. He's usually the one that's dictating play, controlling the team, and was a lifetime of his team, Chelsea. However, if we are grading these two players based on their job as an attacker by looking at all of their numbers and participation on the pitch, it doesn't seem that the odds of the team winning would be realistically any better if we were to switch these two players out during the average game. There is just really no evidence that suggests that Hazard helping the team literally away from goal will help the team play a lot better. And if I was to be completely honest, it honestly seems that Salah's goal scoring ratio is just a little bit too high. Now, what a lot of you guys might actually find interesting is that Hazard actually was really good at going forward, as he would always outperform his expected goals and was actually scoring at relatively the same rate as Mohamed Salah over the years. So if he was actually attacking the goal a little bit more than he actually did, this debate would actually be a completely different story. But as of now, with the way we currently analyze football, Salah is the one that's walking away with the win here. But that's enough from me. What do you guys think? Who do you guys think is actually the better attacker? If you guys want a really in-depth versus video on these two players, like what's mostly on my channel, going really in-depth about the eye test, impact, their prime years, and more details, please comment down below. And as always, thank you for watching.